There's not much time left, so my goal is to give you the most streamlined guide to must-buy games before digital purchases stop on both Nintendo 3DS and Wii U, happening March 27th, 2023, exactly 2 weeks after the posting of this video. Instead of bombarding you with a list of everything you can possibly download, I'm going to try my best to hit the games I think are the most important. Games that are either hard to find or expensive to get physically, have not had a re-release on Switch or any other consoles, or exclusive to digital storefronts, meaning they'll be gone for good unless Nintendo decides to re-release them. For example, I won't be recommending things like Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U or Super Mario 3D Land, because even though they're fantastic games, physical copies are still cheap since they were so widely printed. Whereas on the other hand, the Wii U Zelda ports or the 3DS Fire Emblem games are much better digital buys, because they are expensive physically. And lastly, before we get started, this list is made with Nintendo fans in mind. First and foremost, it's for those who enjoy first-party Nintendo and closely related titles. If you want more in-depth coverage on third-party Wii U and 3DS games, this isn't the guide for you, and you'll find plenty of other more comprehensive guides out there on the topic. First, on both 3DS and Wii U, there are a group of titles called Nintendo Selects, all of which you can download now for about $20 US each. There are some great games included, and I'll provide the full list in the video description. Any of these games are worth it at this price, but in particular, I want to point out The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD and Tomodachi Life, as physical versions for both are much more expensive. For 3DS, I want to first recommend Kid Icarus Uprising. The only way to secure it at retail price is to buy from eShop, since physical can run you upwards of $50 US. If you have any intention of playing Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn, even though it's probably the worst version compared to the Wii release, definitely buy it now. It's one of the most expensive physical 3DS games, because it was the last game Nintendo published for the handheld, not even all that long ago in 2019, 2 full years into the life of the Switch. The 3DS version adds in copy abilities and minigames, neither of which were present on the Wii, so it is kind of a fun novelty purchase for Kirby fans. Games like WarioWare Gold, Rhythm Heaven Megamix, and Metroid Samus Returns are all a bit more expensive physically, with their prices likely to increase further as things get more scarce. Now let's talk about both Dragon Quest VII and 8. The 3DS ports of both of these RPGs are the only way you can play them on a Nintendo console, and 8 on the 3DS is especially good due to all the new content it comes with. It's one of the best received Dragon Quest games as it is, so if you ever wanted to replay it or get into the series, do yourself a favor and get a hold of 8 on the 3DS while it's still affordable digitally. It's one of the rarest 3DS games to find a physical copy of and could potentially run you a triple-digit price at resale. And then there's Dragon Quest VII, which doesn't hold a candle to 8 in my opinion, but if you want the option to play it in the most convenient way possible, getting it on 3DS is the way to go, because otherwise you're stuck buying an expensive 2-disc PlayStation game. There's also some digital exclusive Nintendo software that's going to be going away for good with the 3DS eShop. There are a couple Kirby games like Fighters Deluxe, Kirby's Blowout Blast, DDD's Drum Dash Deluxe, and the free Team Kirby Clash Deluxe. There's also Mario vs Donkey Kong Tipping Stars, which is actually really cool, since it's one of the only titles with cross-buy between the 3DS and Wii U, which means if you buy the 3DS version, you'll also get a free download code for the Wii U version. For puzzle game enthusiasts, there's also the Pushmo series by Intelligent Systems. These are all currently stuck on the 3DS or Wii U. And don't forget about the first 2 Box Boy games from HAL Labs, both only available on 3DS. These will all be rendered inaccessible by the 27th. Luckily, they are smaller titles, so get them now if you have any interest at all. To round out the 3DS list, I'm going to extensively cover 2 big series that are probably in the messiest situation when it comes to the eShop closure: Fire Emblem and Pokemon. There are multiple Fire Emblem games that are, as of right now, exclusive to the handheld. These are some of the most expensive physical games on the 3DS, and eShop is the only way you're going to be able to buy Fire Emblem Awakening, the Fates games, and Echo's Shadows of Valentia at retail price. Where it gets messy though is the downloadable content for each of these games. Awakening has some amazing DLC episodes featuring classic characters from across the franchise, but in order to even purchase them, you need to at least play through Chapter 4 in the base game, which means there's not just a monetary barrier between you and these DLCs, but a time one as well. Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia has a bunch of DLC map packs as well. However, these are much easier to obtain, only requiring that you complete the game's tutorial to get to the purchase screen. But the Fire Emblem Fates situation is probably the most concerning one of all. For one, the first part of the Fates story is split into two separate games, Conquest and Birthright, each of which are full-price games on the Nintendo eShop. Within either one of these games is the option to download the story of the other version, along with a separate third campaign, a whole new Fates title in itself, Revelation, which serves as the final part of the Fates storyline. But here's the kicker, Revelation is digital only, unless you are one of the lucky few to secure this special edition cartridge containing all three stories, but good luck finding that for a reasonable price online. On top of all that, Fates also has a bunch of DLC map packs requiring you to get to Chapter 6 in either Conquest or Birthright before buying them. So all that to say, if you have any interest in playing 3DS Fire Emblem in the future, I would recommend purchasing Awakening, Echoes, and at least one of either Birthright or Conquest, while making sure to complete the in-game purchases of both additional paths. So either Birthright or Conquest, depending on the version you're on, and most importantly, Revelations. Once this is all taken care of, then you can worry about buying any additional map packs, since those are all entirely optional. Having access to at least all of the main paths, including Revelation, will help keep the majority of your Fire Emblem bases covered. The 3DS Pokemon situation is just as hairy as the Fire Emblem one, if not more. Having a 3DS with the right software downloaded onto it is going to be vital if you're someone who's planning to play older Pokemon titles with the potential of transferring Pokemon from these games into newer games in the series. First of all, the 3DS has several mainline Pokemon games exclusive to it, all of which are more expensive to buy physically. This includes Pokemon X and Y, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Sun and Moon, and Ultra Sun and Moon, all of which are fantastic games in their own right. And then there are the digital-only Pokemon releases, including all of the Generation 1 and 2 Game Boy titles, which are in a much more dire situation. It's tricky because I'm talking about 6 completely separate games: Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, and Crystal. Not to mention, there's still a non-zero chance these will make their way over to Nintendo Switch at some point in the future. So going crazy and buying all of these now is a decision you might regret one day. That being said, I'm in no way advising against buying them, as purchasing now is the best and safest way to make sure you have these games in Pokemon Transfer compatible forms going into the future. What I'm personally aiming for in this particular situation is to strike a happy medium, and this is the advice I'd give to most people looking to make it simple. Just make sure you have both Yellow and Crystal downloaded. This will make it so you have at least one game from each classic generation that's available on 3DS, and since you have Yellow, you'll have all 3 Kanto starters for transfer purposes, and Crystal will mean you have access forever to the GS Ball Celebi event. Then if we follow a similar logic with the newer 3DS releases, you should prioritize buying Pokemon X or Y, either Omega Ruby or Alpha Sapphire, in either Ultra Sun or Ultra Moon. Lastly, you'll want to make sure you have the right 3DS software applications installed in order to enable transfer to Pokemon Home. If you have all the 3DS Pokemon games downloaded but don't have both Pokemon Bank and Pokemon Transporter installed, you're still going to be out of luck. Pokemon Bank is needed to get Pokemon from the newer 3DS games over to Pokemon Home on the Switch, and Pokemon Transporter is necessary to move Pokemon from the Game Boy Virtual Console titles over to Pokemon Bank, so you can subsequently move those to Pokemon Home. Now with 3DS mostly sorted, let's move over to Nintendo Wii U. Luckily for us, a lot of the best Wii U stuff has since been ported over to Nintendo Switch, so we don't have to worry about it nearly as much as we do with 3DS. When it comes to Wii U original software, I'd suggest the items of the highest priority to be Xenoblade Chronicles X and The Legend of Zelda HD ports, Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD. Wind Waker HD is part of the Nintendo Selects, making that by far the most affordable way to secure the game. And let me just say, $20 for Wind Waker HD is a serious steal. In addition to that, if you don't want to pay well over retail price for a physical version, eShop is also the best way to obtain Twilight Princess HD right now. It's a similar situation with Xenoblade Chronicles X, since the Wii U is so far the only place to play the game, and the eShop is the only place to buy it for retail price. Just to be safe, if you're planning to download Xenoblade Chronicles X, make sure you've also downloaded the free data packs available on the eShop. These improve the game's performance on Wii U and are especially important if you plan to purchase the physical version of the game, since these are important updates that don't come on the disc. Where the Wii U eShop really comes into play is with the Virtual Console. Right now, this is the only way to obtain many Nintendo Wii and DS games digitally, and while the current Nintendo Switch Online services are making a lot of older games accessible again, the future roadmap for that service is unclear. You don't own the games on Nintendo Switch Online, so if one day it happens to go away, or you simply stop paying for the service, your games will be gone too. The Wii U's Virtual Console is a great remedy for that, since it has many downloadable classic games for you to own from the NES all the way through the Nintendo Wii. But if you have a Switch Online membership and don't plan on canceling it, then what you really want to focus on is the Wii and DS games, since classics from those two consoles are not likely to appear on Switch anytime soon. In the video description, I've included full lists of all the Wii and DS Virtual Console games, but for my recommendations on these, I'm gonna use the same logic I have been with everything else. Make sure to prioritize games that are either hard to find or expensive physically. For example, when it comes to Wii games, the Metroid Prime trilogy should be an instant buy if you want secure and affordable access to Metroid Prime 2 and 3. You also can't go wrong with the entire New Play Control series, a group of GameCube games that were adapted to use the Wii's motion controls. Pikmin 1 and 2 are particularly great, as this is still my favorite way to play both of these. Rhythm Heaven Fever is very expensive physically, so this is a good digital buy on Wii U, and same goes for Punch-Out Wii, another really fun, kinda rare Nintendo game. Nintendo DS is the other major half of the Wii U Virtual Console, and some of the best value buys there include Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, Advance Wars Dual Strike, Mario & Luigi Partners in Time, and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky. I also think Wii U is the premier way to play a lot of the touch-centric DS games like WarioWare Touch and Yoshi's Touch and Go, so download those on Wii U as well if you want the best possible experience. Down below in the pinned comment, I've created a priority list for Nintendo fans looking to make the most meaningful purchases during the next 2 weeks. At the top are the Wii U and 3DS games I think are the most urgent buys before the eShop shuts down on the 27th. Obviously, there's some amount of subjectivity involved, but this is my best attempt as a lifelong enjoyer of Nintendo's back catalog to curate a list of quality titles you really should consider getting right now. It's an unfortunate reality that now one day you might get into a really great new Nintendo series, only to realize some of its Wii U or 3DS entries are either extremely expensive physically, or worse, completely inaccessible due to the eShop's inevitable shutdown. So with this video, I hope to have provided a solid action plan to help Nintendo fans avoid this scenario in the future. And while it's certainly sad that the eShop is dying on these two amazing consoles, I'm happy to say that the huge amount of top-notch Nintendo software on each of them means they still have long, vibrant lives ahead of them. And for that, I'm very thankful. Let me know in the comments if this guide helped you discover a game you love, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.